The Clarity Act has a 46% chance of passing before the end of 2026. Galaxy Digital warned that if it doesn't clear committee before the end of April, the odds drop to near zero. David Schwartz went on record this week saying there's no secret plan. And XRP is still locked at 143. Tonight, we are unpacking all of it, exactly as it is, not as we want it to be. XRP is currently trading at $1.43 a left. The 4-hour chart shows a symmetrical triangle that has reached its apex. The structure analysts have been tracking since early April. The 20-period SMA on the 4-hour sits at 1.4373, just above current price. The 4-hour MACD has turned bearish at the apex simultaneously. And that is the operative short-term signal until XRP closes a 4-hour candle above both the SMA 20 and the upper triangle trend line at the same time. The measured move from the widest point of the triangle puts $1.50 as the primary upside target on a confirmed breakout. A daily close above $1.50 that converts to support opens 1.55 and then 1.80 as the next structural target. Scenario 2. If 1.36 breaks on a daily close, that is the lower trend line of the triangle and the technical invalidation of the near-term bullish structure, opening a retest of 1.27, which is the structural floor that has held every test since the January low. The bearish MACD crossover at the apex is a signal, not a verdict. It says the next move will be decisive in one direction. It does not say which direction. The Bitcoin correlation matters here. Bitcoin reclaiming above $78,000 is a meaningful tailwind because XRP has historically lagged Bitcoin's directional moves by 24 to 72 hours in consolidation to breakout sequences. Now the Clarity Act and the honest read, including the parts you need to know, even if they are uncomfortable. The Senate Banking Committee postponed the markup in January after Coinbase's Brian Armstrong objected to late-stage amendments tilting the legislation toward traditional banking interests, while Democratic members pressed for ethics provisions barring senior government officials from personally benefiting from crypto ventures, provisions that stalled in White House negotiations. Galaxy Digital's Alex Thorne warned explicitly that if the bill does not clear committee before the end of April, the odds of passage in 2026 become extremely low. Polymarket currently prices the Clarity Act at 46% odds of being signed into law in 2026. Kalshi prices it at 47% before July and 72% by August. The 120-plus organizations that sent the formal coalition letter to the Senate Banking Committee, Ripple, Hedera, and over 118 others, created a documented public record of unified industry consensus that the committee cannot dismiss as single-company lobbying. The honest framing. The Clarity Act is not dead. It is delayed. The distinction matters because the institutional allocation committees, deferring procurement commitments, pending statutory clarity, are not exiting the space. They are waiting. The wait is longer than the most optimistic timeline suggested. The demand, when statutory clarity arrives, is the same demand it was always going to be. The delay affects timing without changing the structural thesis. Now, David Schwartz interpreted precisely because the honest read sits between two wrong interpretations. What Schwartz actually said, 99% of what you see is what you get. NDAs exist because Ripple's business is its business, not because of earth-shattering hidden plans. As far as he knows, there is no government plan, no major secret having to do with XRP, no conspiracy. But he explicitly qualified that there are places outside Ripple and outside the XRPL Foundation where he has no visibility. And things could be happening there that he knows nothing about. That qualification is doing meaningful work in his statement and is the part that most coverage glosses over. Schwartz is not saying there are no significant institutional relationships developing in the broader ecosystem. He is saying that within the scope of what he has visibility into, the picture is not dramatically different from the public picture. That is a meaningfully different statement from nothing significant is happening. What does it tell you about the BlackRock speculation specifically? Ripple has confirmed institutional adjacency to BlackRock through Securitizes tokenized fund infrastructure. The speculation is built on documented institutional proximity, not on rumor alone. What Schwartz confirmed is that there is no government-orchestrated plan to buy back XRP or set a price administratively, which is the version of the narrative that required a hidden government involvement to function. The utility pricing model, the version that does not require a secret plan and is built on ODL corridor deployment and institutional adoption curves, is the version the documented evidence supports, and that Schwartz's statement does not contradict. Comment. Honest read below if you want more videos that distinguish between what the evidence supports and what requires a secret to be true. Now, the Ripple custody announcement, because this is the most institutionally significant infrastructure development of the past month, and it is being covered at a fraction of the attention that price speculation is receiving, which is exactly backwards. On February 9th, 2026, Ripple announced a series of strategic collaborations, expanding Ripple custody's capabilities, with direct implications for institutional adoption timelines. Securosis integration brings Cyber Vault HSM and Cloud HSM hardware security modules, the gold standard for institutional cryptographic key management, available both on-premises and in the cloud, eliminating the procurement complexity that has been the primary operational bottleneck for banks building digital asset custody infrastructure. The Figment partnership enables institutional staking capabilities, allowing custodied assets to generate yield within the custody environment without requiring transfers to external staking protocols. The specific security concern that has kept conservative institutional custody clients away from staking entirely. The Chainalysis integration delivers real-time transaction screening and policy enforcement built directly into the custody execution flow, running before assets move. The compliance layer that AML-governed institutions require as a prerequisite for digital asset custody operations. The Palisade acquisition adds faster wallet deployment and scalable infrastructure for fintechs and institutions building on top of Ripple custody. The institutional implication is straightforward. Custody is the governance layer that every other digital asset institutional use case runs on. Payments, tokenization, staking, trading. Institutions that cannot custody digital assets securely and compliantly cannot do anything else with them. Ripple Custody's February announcement removed the three most common institutional objections to deploying at scale: HSM complexity, staking risk, and compliance integration. The institutions evaluating XRP-based payment infrastructure that were previously blocked by custody concerns now have a production-ready custody pathway from the same entity providing the payment infrastructure. In enterprise procurement, consolidating custody and payments into a single vendor relationship is frequently the deciding factor that moves an evaluation into a deployment decision. One more development that deserves honest framing: the yield basis DeFi exploit this week, $1.25 million in wrapped Bitcoin extracted through a custom contract deployed against 3 vaults. This is not an isolated incident. The pattern has a direct implication for XRP's positioning. Every DeFi exploit reinforces the institutional preference for regulated custody infrastructure over yield-generating wrapped asset protocols. The regulated staking pathway through Ripple Custody's Figment integration becomes more attractive relative to DeFi yield every time another protocol loses user funds. This is the market structure reason that Ripple Custody's announcement matters to the XRP investment thesis. Not because it directly drives XRP's price, but because it removes the institutional objections that have been delaying the adoption curve that does drive the price. Here is where everything connects. XRP is sitting at 1.43 at a technical apex that resolves decisively in one direction. And the catalyst that pushes it above 1.50 on a confirmed daily close is most likely an external development rather than a chart signal. The Clarity Act's May window is the nearest legislative catalyst. The RLUSD go live on Mastercard's network is the nearest commercial deployment catalyst. Ripple Custody's institutional onboarding momentum is the medium-term adoption catalyst. All three are running on the same calendar window simultaneously. The Schwartz NDA statement, read precisely, confirms that the utility pricing thesis is not dependent on any hidden plan. It is dependent on the documented adoption curve that Ripple's quarterly ODL data, the institutional ETF flow figures, and the Ripple Custody deployment pipeline are all tracking in real time. The structural floor at 1.27 remains intact. The symmetrical triangle apex is reached. The Clarity Act window is open until the end of April. These are the three coordinates that define exactly where this stands right now. If this gave you the complete picture, the precise technical structure with both scenarios, the honest Clarity Act odds including Galaxy Digital's warning, the exact David Schwartz interpretation including the qualification he made that most coverage ignored, and the Ripple Custody infrastructure story that is the most underreported institutional development of the month. Smash the like button right now. You stayed for the full analysis, including the sections that were honest about what is uncertain and what is delayed. And that tells me you're processing this at the level that produces better long-term decisions. Share this with one XRP holder who read the Schwartz NDA headline and drew either a fully bullish or fully bearish conclusion, because both readings missed what he actually said. Subscribe and hit the bell, because the Clarity Act April committee window, the XRP Triangle Apex resolution, and the RLUSD go-live date are all converging right now. And when any of them moves, the full breakdown is here immediately. Tell me in the comments, which do you think resolves first? XRP closing a daily candle above $1.50, or the Clarity Act clearing the Senate Banking Committee markup? See you in the next one.